Welcome to Gopher Basketball Weekly with head coach Richard Pitino. I'm Mike Grimm along with Justin Gaard, and here we are the day after a Monday night Big Ten win. The Golden Gophers beat the Nebraska Cornhuskers by 18 last night at Williams Arena. And Coach, always good to get a win, always good to win by double digits and get that good taste of victory back in your mouth, I assume, right?
For sure. Yeah, life is better when you win as a coach. We try to say that, wins and losses don't define us. That's not true. We things are better in the house. Things are better when you're driving in, at work. Coffee, as Beeline said last night on the broadcast, the coffee tastes better when you win. And it 100% does. So it was a good win. I mean, it was good to bounce back. That was a 3-game losing streak that felt like a 7-game losing streak because the Nebraska cancellation, and it was just spread out so long. So it's good to be kind of on the other side of it. And like I've said from day one, it's not easy to get conference wins. And, the fact that we got one there last night was a good step in the right direction. We played well versus Rutgers. We had a chance to win. We bounced back and played well last night.
And you did it with your two best players playing 33 minutes combined. Typically, they'll probably play at least 30 on their own. Marcus certainly will. So what was it like? I know the lead kind of shrunk a little bit in the second half and both of them were out, but to get through the foul trouble of both of them.
Very challenging. Yeah, that doesn't you don't normally have to deal with that with your two kind of, star players. That was very, very unique and challenging. Credit to guys like Mashburn. I thought he really stepped up. Curry did some good things. But yeah, you're just not used to that. And we were just trying to get to that 8-minute mark in the second half to where we could maybe start sprinkling them back in. But we need those guys on the court. They're too important to this team right now. They can't get in foul trouble. After watching all the fouls, I don't think all of them were all that questionable. I mean, maybe a couple could have gone either way, but they could have avoided them. And, we're obviously a much, much better team when they're on the court.
I thought Brandon Johnson, too, stepped up. He had a double-double last night. First half had 10 points, and he kind of has that I don't know if the term's right or not, but he's kind of that middle glue guy that just kind of does a few things well in each of the categories. Gets you a couple of steals, maybe block a shot, get you 8 or 10 rebounds. I thought he was good while those guys were out also.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he was tough. He was offensive rebounding. When we went on that stretch where we missed 50 free throws or shots in a row, he made plays, offensive rebounding and tips. And this team cannot, if we think we're just Marcus and Liam and nobody else, we're not going to win. We need balance. That's just the way that I want our teams to win. And I feel like it's the best way to put ourselves in a position in the Big Ten because the coaching is too good. They're going to take certain guys, so maybe it's trapping the post, maybe it's trapping ball screens. Other guys need to step up. And, Brandon was that guy last night. Jamal Mashburn Jr. was that guy last night. And, over a 40-minute game, that's what you need. You need guys making plays besides the obvious guys all the time. And then that frees up things. So Brandon was absolutely a glue guy, and we need him to be that.
You mentioned the 50 shots in a row that you missed there in the second half. How are you going through that when you're talking with the team? I watched it again this morning and I'm thinking, okay, not a terrible shot within the offense, not a bad shot within the offense. The ball moved. There are a couple, obviously, when you have a guy just dribble up and shoot or one pass and the ball doesn't reverse and they shoot. But for the most part, they're getting good looks. But what do you say when you're going through that stretch of we're not hitting these shots and it's hard to go inside because Liam's out? How are you navigating that whole situation?
You got any suggestions?
I don't.
Yeah. What you said at the end is the most important thing when Liam's out, because Eric's not a great low post threat. That's not really his game. We want to shoot threes. I mean, I'm confident that these guys are better shooters than they're shooting right now. As long as they're shooting good ones, I don't know how I tell them to pass them up. They're in a zone. So would you rather them shoot along too? Maybe we're a little bit better at that than we think we are, but I think they're taking good shots. I think the ball movement was good. We were 3 passes per possession, which we counted last night. So, to me, it's like that game reminded me of the Iowa game. Iowa on the road, where Iowa dared us to shoot it, and we couldn't make shots. The difference was we got stops versus Nebraska, where versus Iowa, we couldn't get stops because they're so good offensively. But it's a challenge. I mean, our guys got to make shots. If they're open, they got to be able to knock them down, and stay confident. I think that's where I get mad. It's not that you're missing shots. Like, that happens. It's when you're hanging your head or you're feeling sorry for yourself. That's where I get frustrated. I mean, stay confident. Big deal. You missed a shot. There's worse things in the world that can happen. Go knock down the next one.
Yeah, that'd be my suggestion, is just make them make the shots, I think. That'd be the way I'd take it. You mentioned the foul situation. You went back and watched the tape, and I agree. I thought they were all, legitimate calls. Maybe the third on Liam was a little dicey in a Big Ten game to get that one. But that said, they were also funky. I mean, I think any of them could have been a play on. Like, they could have said, hey, let's just move along. I don't think Fred Hoiberg's going to lose his mind if any of those fouls aren't called. There were, a couple of ticky-tacky ones. There was contact. Liam specifically, though, I mean, a couple of them, I think maybe 3, maybe even 4 of the fouls were going to get offensive rebounds. Do you have to talk to him about, hey, concede a rebound every now and then on the offensive end and let the other team have it just so you don't commit a foul?
For sure. I can promise you, though, Thursday will be ref differently than last night, right. And that's the hard part is, and this isn't the ref's fault, but, we have a small crop of refs this year because of we're playing in the middle of a pandemic. I don't know if you guys know that, but I think every game is a little bit different. They know Purdue is physical. They know that they're going to, elbow you. They're going to push you. So it'll be a different feel. So, I thought the game was reffed fine. I mean, I told one of the refs, I said, anytime a game gets past 9:15, you guys should be ashamed of yourself. This is too late. But I don't think any of them were bad calls. I think you just got to be a little bit smarter in his approach. I've always said with this league, it's all about fouling without fouling. Can you figure that out? Because there's ways that you can do it in a physicality way where they won't call it. And obviously, last night we didn't do that.
If they go ahead, Grimmer.
I was going to say, if they end up calling like what Liam's third foul was, again, there was a little bit of it in the Big Ten. If they call that, you won't have any bigs after about 6 minutes of the game. But sometimes they pick a time to call it, and Liam got caught that time.
Yeah, I mean, it was reffed a little bit like a non-conference game, right. And I don't like, me. I mean, I'm not like you, Mike. I don't complain about the refs, but the key is, like anything, is consistency game to game. It's always going to be different in conference than it is in the non-conference, and that's totally fine. But I do know on Thursday we better be ready for a different type of game, and we better be ready to do it fouling without fouling, as I say.
So Marcus plays 19 minutes, scores 21 points, unbelievably efficient, got to the line, shot well. They really had no answers for him when he was out there. What was working for him specifically?
I thought he played terrific. At the beginning, he was really good. Had 5 assists like right off the bat, was getting deflections. He's got to relish being a point guard, and the scoring will open up. But, if he wants to play at the next level, if he wants to help this team win, he needs to be getting about 8-9 assists a game. And he can still go get his 15 to 16 to 17. But he is dynamic at passing the ball and finding guys. And if he can continue to relish that, because he's slowly doing that, then all of a sudden now they're going to have to make decisions on how they want to guard him. Like, if you rotate up, he dumps it down for a dunk to Liam. If we put 2 on the ball, he reverses to Brandon for a 3, or he skips it, to Booth for a 3 or whatever. He needs to see that. And I thought last night he was just incredibly efficient, like you said. I mean, 21 points, and he barely broke a sweat, to be in foul trouble like that. So he was terrific last night. He's had a little bit of a nagging foot issue, so hopefully that time off, or the limited minutes will help him a little bit.
I thought too, where he has maybe had some issues in the past with that double high, where they hedge it hard and double him all of a sudden. And it's easy sometimes, right, to say, hey, pass out of it. But when you've got Miles Johnson at 7'1" with a 19-foot wingspan, I mean, it's hard for a 6'2" guy maybe sometimes to find a thing. I thought yesterday a couple of times, it wasn't a lot, but a few times, he just simply was aggressive. Like, he split the double team instead and blew by him and got some shots and some stuff in the lane. I suppose it's like football sometimes. How do you beat a blitz? Sometimes you just run right at it. And I thought there were a couple times where he just said, all right, you're coming at me, I'll just blow by you.
100%. And that's what he needed to do versus Rutgers. And he got a little bit caught up, in it where, even like at the end of the game, I ran that play where I put the guard at the free throw line and he attacked it differently. He went north-south instead of east-west. We got easy baskets out of it. So obviously it's just all about executing. It's not necessarily about what it is that you're doing. It's more about how you do it and taking what the defense gives you. They're going to throw different things at you. And, sometimes you got to get it out of your hands quickly. And, I thought last night he was really, really good.
You mentioned Jamal played well. Go ahead, Grimmer. You're the voice of the Gophers. I'll stop stepping on you.
Well, we just need to take a break. That's all. The commercial says it's time for a commercial. I promise I'll let you answer that or ask the question of the head coach when we come back. Sound good?
I'm ready. Yeah, I'll be ready to go.
Awesome. We want to remind you, Sunbelt Business Advisors sponsors Gopher Basketball Weekly with Richard Pitino. Onward for Business, presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors. Wants to be on your team when you buy or sell a business. Onward for Business, the one-stop shop for buying or selling your business and for payroll, insurance, bookkeeping, and more. Onward. JG will have his question for the head coach when we come back. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with Richard Pitino from Learfield, IMG College. Welcome back to Gopher Basketball Weekly. It's presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors. Onward for Business, presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors. Wanting to be on your team when you buy or sell a business. Onward for Business, the one-stop shop for buying or selling your business and for payroll, insurance, bookkeeping, and more. Onward. Grimm and Gaard with you. Justin Gaard just dined. Ask the next question, so we give you the floor, sir.
Thanks, Grimmer. I'm going to pivot, too. I'm going to ask a couple here in a row because you mentioned the end of the Rutgers game with Marcus, and I want to go back to that game. I agree with you. I thought you guys played great. It was a bummer that you lost it because you even look at the statistics. I mean, we just talked about you guys missing 53s. You only shot 18 against Rutgers. You scored 72 points. You got to the line. You made your free throws. And in the last 2 or 3 minutes, the wheels just basically fell off, specifically with how Marcus was playing there in the pick and roll game. So when you went back and looked, or even when you saw it live, like what happened there in the final 90 seconds to 2 minutes on those possessions?
Yeah, I mean, I think Marcus wore down a little bit. It's you always look back like, as a coach and go like, okay, like, could I have called something different? Could we have run something different? He was killing them in the pick and roll game for about 90% of the game. He was splitting it. He was going around it. He was getting guys other shots. And then probably 2 or 3, he just didn't, he had a turnover. He fell down one time, which is uncharacteristic of him. You got to give Geo Baker credit, made a big play. One of the reasons why I ran the play that I did at the end, I don't know why he walked the ball up. He knows he shouldn't have done that.
I was going to get to that. Yeah, that was.
Like I didn't tell him to do that. Like I didn't say, hey, no, we didn't do that. He just had a bit of a brain fart for a second, but that happens. I changed our approach. I wanted to put him, I always put a shooter at the free throw line. I flatten everybody out and give Marcus the ability to go make a play. Won the game at Ohio State last year doing that. Won the game this year, Loyola Marymount doing that. They can't trap it with the big if you do that. He just kind of just broke down a little bit. But, more times than not, he's been really good at it. So I don't know. I mean, we had about, I don't even think it was 3 minutes bad. It was about a minute and a half where we didn't play well. And, give Geo Baker credit too. He shoots a moonshot, 12-footer over Gabe. Just makes a tough play. Harper makes some free throws. I'll take the way we played any day of the week there.
So when you watch back, like, you mentioned the possession where you have to call 2 timeouts and then the final play, but there's even a play where he gets trapped and you've got Liam at the free throw line. You've got Gabe in one corner. I think you've got either Jamal or Booth on the other side. Brandon's down low. Like if Marcus just simply passes out of that double team, you've got a million options. So do you watch that and show him? You mentioned he's got to relish being a point guard. And I watched it 3 times, Richard, because I like torture. Because I was just like, I just want to see what happened here. And if he simply just gets it out of that first double team, maybe even to Liam, you've got a million options right there, and it's the greatest play call of all time. So how do you go through that with him?
Bingo. Pass the ball. It's he had Liam open in the middle, and one time Liam caught it, and then we got a layup out of it.
Yep.
One time he threw it to Gabe. Gabe had a bad travel, where he just shuffled his feet right in front of the refs. So again, like the old play call thing, like questioning the play calls, like I know that's fun for fans and go ahead, have at it. It doesn't really matter to me. But the bottom line is if you're going to put 2 on the ball, somebody's going to be open and you got to go find it and you got to go trust it. And you got to get it out of your hands quickly. So yeah, he knows. I mean, it's not one of those things where you go to the locker room and say, it's your fault. Like, no, it's not. I mean, you break it down over 40 minutes and you take the good, you take the bad, and you keep moving, and you just kind of go from there. So he's a smart enough player to understand how to do it.
So what did you take from the first 38? Because it was a really entertaining game. And obviously, Rutgers had been on a little bit of a hot streak, but I really liked how you guys defended, how you rebounded. And you look at offensively, I mean, to put up 72 points really with 6 3-pointers is a pretty good day. So things were obviously working pretty well in that regard.
I just thought we were connected, I mean, again, I don't want to offend and anger people, but we have a lot of new players. And when you don't have a traditional offseason, you're going to have to grow throughout the season. And that was our first close game that we lost. Iowa was a close game, but it was different. It was like a back and forth scoring type deal. Brandon loses his mind, makes 8 threes. This was a slugfest. We needed it. I just liked the fact that you saw multiple guys diving on loose balls. You saw our offensive rebounding. I mean, we were attacking the glass. Guys on the bench were enthusiastic. Like you could tell there was a collective will to give up their body and go try to get it. And we didn't get it. But you know what? There was no obviously the other losses that we had, it was disappointing efforts. Like our effort was terrific. And sometimes you need to go through that. I mean, Rutgers returns 5 starters. We would be, I don't want to upset people, we would be a different team if Daniel Otero was on the team. He leaves early to go to the NBA. We would be a different team if Peyton Willis doesn't transfer to College of Charleston. And it's just the dynamic of college basketball. If you can keep your roster old, you got to try to do it. But, if Daniel's got an opportunity to go to be the first guy drafted since Chris Humphreys, have at it as well. So sometimes that needs to happen during a season in front of their eyes so they could see they could do it for each other. And they did that game. And hopefully that gives them confidence like, hey, man, when we're good, we're good.
I wanted to ask you too, you mentioned something to me last night in the pregame interview about how maybe you have changed a little bit in how you emotionally handle losses. Not that it's that you're okay with losing, but that maybe early in your career you handled emotionally different than what you handle it now. Walk me through how you handle a tough one like that on the road and then try to get your team ready to come back.
I try really, really hard to never really get angry. I just don't know if it's productive, to be quite honest with you. I try to get emotion out of it. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but I listened to a great podcast, and this TCU baseball coach told me that he told me on the podcast, but that his life changed when he stopped talking to the guys after the games, win or lose, and they win a lot of games down there because the emotions out of it. Like we always are going to have 2 or 3 days to address certain things on the film. Get the emotion out of it, because everybody's emotional. They want to win. They want to play well. We want to win. So, it comes down to, not to be a therapist here, but, if I'm having an issue with one of my players and I go to a therapist or a sports psychologist and I say, how do we change John, right? They'll normally say, we're going to change you, because if we change you, you'll deal with John better. Because John's probably not going to change as much as you can change. So over the years, I've just realized, I got to coach them. And if they're not doing what we want them to do, it's on me to get that right. And it doesn't mean that them making the mistake during the game wasn't necessarily their fault. Yelling and screaming at them is not going to fix anything. It's really not. It's just a matter of, there's nothing I can do to change the outcome at that time. Now, if we lose on a Sunday and I have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I got to get that right. It should be that the hay should be in the barn by the time the game happens. And, I've talked to a lot of coaches about that. I just feel like the time when the cameras are off, that's where I need to be at my best.
And you've talked a lot about post-entry passes the last few days as a focus. And there's times where, and even going into the Rutgers game when Marcus took that 18-footer, if you kind of look down with 11 seconds, Liam standing right there on the block probably has a really good opportunity, especially when Liam's in the game. How much have you focused on the ball's got to get inside a little bit at some point?
A lot. Yeah. I mean, it's on Liam to be more physical and post up and demand it. There's guys in this league that are terrific at it, but we got to get the ball in there. And maybe it's putting in a couple of different wrinkles to what it is that we're doing, but that ball needs to go down there more. So we're going to, certainly work on that. But yeah, I mean, we had a couple turnovers last night. I think it was Jay and Gabe. We can't turn the ball over on these post feeds like that, but we do need to have a point of emphasis to get it in there. Even with Brandon as well. I think, getting the ball in the post, getting some touches there. But that's got to be a big point of emphasis because, we're shooting 28% from three in conference. I've said it over and over again, like I'm not a genius, but we got to get the ball closer to the basket if we're going to continue to shoot these numbers. And Liam is obviously a clear target that could be pretty good at it.
The various ways you can enter the ball to the post too, whether it's the lob. I think both the plays last night they were fronting maybe, and you were trying to lob it over and the throw wasn't enough. So and then there's times like you watch Iowa sometimes, like going all the way back to Tom Davis, where they will almost roll the ball into the post. They kind of put some spin on it and funnel it in. How many different ways and how often do you try to practice the different angles and maybe take one dribble closer to the baseline to set up so that you're not turning the ball over to getting the ball inside?
Yeah, if you remember a couple of years ago, I think it was Eric Curry's freshman year, we were terrific at the high-low game. And, the big-to-big pass, we were really good at it. We tried to get a post up for Brandon last night, and Liam caught it, and he just threw it. And instead, he should have skipped it. So because they were loading up on the backside. And I think it's all somewhat connected. If we're easy to guard from the three, it's going to be easy to sag. I still think about that Maryland game. Like they were just switching a bunch of things and we weren't confident enough to make plays. We were so easy to guard. The good teams read it, so all of a sudden now you skip it and you make a three, then the help's not on the backside because they're apprehensive and now you can throw over the top. So yeah, we work on it. Obviously Iowa bowls it in there. But they're really good at it. And, when you got Luka Garza on the team, you better figure out a way to get it in there as well. So Fran knows what he's doing there.
Yeah, his son might be the best entry post passer in the country, I think, right?
He is. He's terrific at it.
He might not have to score a point, and he has a huge impact on how they're playing for sure by just simply getting the ball to their best player. All right, guards, you have to take another break. What is it? Long contested 2? That's your segment?
Yeah, unless you have more Iowa stuff you want to talk about when we come back. Break down, Kenyon Murray's kids, talk about Wieskamp, whatever you want to do. We can do that when we come back.
It's Hawkeye Basketball Weekly with Richard Pitino here.
Let's go, Gary Dolphin.
It's sponsored by Sunbelt Business Advisors. It is Gopher Basketball Weekly. We invite you back. We will have the long contested 2. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with Richard Pitino from Learfield, IMG College. Welcome back. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with head coach Richard Pitino. Grimm and Gaard with you. The program sponsored by Sunbelt Business Advisors. Onward for business. It's time for the long contested 2 with Gaard and Pitino. JG, here you go.
Well, I want to talk Super Bowl, obviously. I was thinking about your father-in-law again on Sunday night, in the psyche of the New England sports fan. I know people are taking it, they're kind of mixed on Brady, that he was his guy. And then obviously Gronk has a huge day as well, who was like the face of New England sports there for a while with Tom. New England well. How are things being handled out there? And then just any general thoughts about the game that we could discuss.
Well, I would say it just reminds me of something a buddy of mine said to me about sports is it never ends well. And you really think about it, it rarely ends well. And what frustrates me about it, because obviously I'd love to root for Tom Brady. But I hate the fact that because Tom Brady wins, somehow it's taking away from the Patriots dynasty and Belichick. Why can't they be separate? And I understand, you got to get TV ratings and you got to write about things, but that annoys me because They won 6 championships, 6. Like they all had a hand in it. And Gronk was terrific there. Brady was terrific there. I just hate this whole, it was so horrible in New England and Belichick never smiles and he's not, lovey-dovey in a press conference. Like, well, for 6, they had 6 Super Bowls, right? I mean, he went to 9. He was 6-9 in New England. So yeah, I'm sure they're a little bit irrational in New England right now. And even the whole, like, they gave up on Brady. Like, at some point it does end. Like, Shaq played for the Celtics,
Right.
Like Montana played for the Chiefs. Like, Brett Favre played for the Vikings. Like, it just happens in sports.
Michael Jordan played for the Wizards. Things happen.
It just, at some point, you have to make the decision that you're going to end it and that you're going to go in a different direction, and you hate to see it. But amazing story with Tom Brady. I think I told my team yesterday, I said, what's the lesson you can learn from Tom Brady? He just has a way of galvanizing people. And he's obviously a great player and a great leader, but he grabs Gronk out of retirement. He tells Antonio Brown, you can live with me. That's that leadership is amazing there. So I'm sure New England's disappointed, but just remember, I was a Yankee fan before I moved to, Minnesota. I hate the Yankees now. Huge Twins fan. But, like, we had 27 world championships. Like, you can't win every year. It's somebody else's turn. And so it's a really cool story.
Well, to me, what I was always funny was, like, 4 or 5 years ago, it happened here when they came to the Super Bowl here and lost to the Eagles. The stories were like, well, there's a lot of tension between Belichick and Kraft and Brady and Brady. I don't know if it's going to work. And I'm thinking, well, I've been to like 5 colleges. I was at my first when this whole thing started, in 2002. Like, the story is that it's lasted this long. The story isn't that they might be getting annoyed with each other, 15, 16, 17 years later. Like, that to me is the amazing part. It's all amazing. I mean, what Brady did right now, but you mentioned it, what they did in New England, we'll never see that again in our lifetimes, given how the NFL's set up. And that to me is the story, that they did it so long and had 9 years between Super Bowl titles, by the way, before they went on that second run. So that's what's incredible about all of it.
And there's 2 sides to every story, like Kraft and Belichick probably are not saying, maybe Brady was being a little irrational about what he wanted, or, like, maybe it was just good for both sides. That's entirely possible. That's not out of the realm of possibilities that, because it's all about money. Like, and, maybe he wanted more than they could give him, or I don't know. But like I said, I mean, in sports, the longer you're out of place, everybody gets sick of everybody. And, the run that they had was amazing.
So how surprised were you to see Kansas City not score a touchdown, kick 3 field goals? I mean, everybody talks about Brady, but the defensive effort was pretty incredible by Tampa Bay.
Amazing. But again, let's not neglect that they had 2 offensive linemen out. They were hurt, so another thing that we don't like to acknowledge is injuries. But obviously that clearly hurt. But yeah, that was the story of the game. I mean, obviously Brady's going to get the MVP, but man, that defense should have gotten the MVP. I don't know all the play. I mean, I know Winfield obviously, but they just kept coming. And Mahomes, I'll say this, that pass that he threw when he was almost on the ground and he hits the guy's face mask, that might have been the greatest pass I've ever seen. So it was, I thought it was kind of a crappy game. I was a little disappointed with it. I was hoping for a little push from Kansas City, but really cool. And it's nice to see a stadium starting to get filled a little bit too. That just changes the whole dynamic of it all.
Well, they did a good job of spacing out the cardboard cutouts and the real people, where if you weren't paying attention, it was confusing. I mean, it looked like it was a sold out crowd.
Yeah. And anything that's the rules are different in Florida. So I'm like, wait a minute, are they just letting anybody in? But it looked really good on TV. I mean, I can't wait to get back to fans in the buildings. I mean, it's a lot more challenging than you realize. I went to a Minnesota Wild game and I'm like, I walk in and I'm like, oh my God, like, is this what our family sees when they go to our games? I mean, it's because for us, like as coaches, you walk out at the beginning and it feels different. It's kind of weird. But then when the game starts, like, you get into it and you kind of forget about it. And then after, obviously, it's weird too. But it's got to be hard for these players.
Can you hear Grimm and Tollickson from row one? Or are they kind of muting themselves? They say some stuff. I listen most nights. I mean, how does that go?
I cannot hear them. I black out a lot of the game, and I don't remember much either. My dad used to be, now he was maniacal on the sidelines. He'd be yelling, everybody screaming, and then all of a sudden you get a win, and he'd be like, hey, you want to get a beer? And I'm like, I'd like an apology first before I have a drink with you. And he'd be like, what are you talking about? So no, I don't remember much, and I definitely don't hear Grimm and Tollickson up there.
That's too bad, Grimmer.
The all-timer guards, he was at Wake Forest for the Big Ten ACC. I don't know, what's that now, 5 or 6 years ago. And we're courtside. So there's times where there are several places in the league where we're courtside. So I there's no doubt in my mind that Coach Pitino will stand in front of me on purpose to block my view. Like even though he's in the middle of trying to call plays, he's going to say, I'm going to screw Grimm here and stand in front of him.
Yeah,
I'm looking
definitely
through his arm and his elbow. But we're talking, I think Wake Forest was in a bit of a zone, right? And so I think I just said something innocently like, Richard Pitino would love to see a shot go down here or something. And he turns and he says, no blank. I can't say the blank, but we got a nice chuckle out of that one live on the air. So that was a good one.
The ability to hit a shot makes a lot of things a lot better. You know what I mean? It really does.
That's for sure. No doubt about it. Guards, I was going to mention, too, you mentioned the Boston, the New England kind of connection. I saw a tweet yesterday that was the highest ranked market in viewership. So there's clearly some interest in Tom Brady and Gronk in Boston. The city with the most viewers was Boston.
Boston's it's a great pro sports town. It's different than here. Like we get a lot of support in the university. It's big in pro sports, and I'm sure there's a lot of gambling on the game too. That would be my guess.
Well, you mentioned I was going to bring up too, you mentioned the fans, and things are a little different in Florida, and I think they're a little different in Arizona. I watched some golf before the Super Bowl. The Phoenix Open was on, the Waste Management, whatever it is. And, that's famous for just being a raucous, crazy party anyway. And it does matter. It's amazing. I think they said 5,000 fans, but it sounded like 1 million because we hadn't heard it. And when putts are dropping and the crowd's going crazy, it's just different. And I literally enjoyed watching that golf more just because there was an atmosphere.
Yeah, my wife gets mad at me because my wife has not been to a game at Williams Arena this year. And I give her crap about it all the time. She was going to go last night, and it was so cold with the kids, and we're not getting babysitters right now just because of COVID and all that. But she asked me well, how do you feel going into this game? And I'm just like, I feel great if there was 12,000 Gopher fans in there, and I knew there was going to be an environment, and I just don't know how these guys are going to respond. At home, on the road, it's so unique because I've been in this profession now, I don't know, since probably 2003. So 17, 18 years of doing this. And it's the crowd matters. That is a huge part, even on the road. But I'm sitting there going, okay, Thursday, if we had Purdue, I know the game's at 4, maybe people getting off of work, that'd be a great crowd. But it just takes out that whole dynamic, and it's really, really weird because you just don't know how your guys are going to respond.
Well, if Jill does make it to a game, you probably will have to warn the officials beforehand, right? I mean, because they'll be able to. She kind of blends in regularly, yelling at the refs. If she's just kind of there by herself.
And doesn't know any of the rules. That's the amazing part too. Thinks everything is a travel. Legitimately, I think it's like Seinfeld when he says, "You don't know what a write-off is." One day I said, "You don't know what a travel is, do you?" And she doesn't. She doesn't know any of the rules. It's amazing that she's a coach's wife now for 9 years.
There it is, the long contested 2 with Justin Gaard and Richard Pitino. We'll take a break. We'll look ahead to that 4:00 game. That game time has been switched. It was 7. It's now 4. Spencer and I will take air on many of these Gopher Radio Network stations at 3:30 on Thursday afternoon. We'll talk about the Boilermakers and the Gophers when we come back. Our show presented by Sunbelt Business Advisors, Onward for Business. It's Gopher Basketball Weekly with Richard Pitino from Learfield, IMG College. Welcome back. Our final segment of Gopher Basketball Weekly with head coach Richard Pitino. It's sponsored by Sunbelt Business Advisors. Wanting to be on your team and you buy or sell a business, Onward for Business, the one-stop shop for buying or selling your business and for payroll, insurance, bookkeeping, and more. Onward, Sunbelt Business Advisors. So Purdue and Minnesota at 4 o'clock now, Thursday afternoon. That game was originally set for 7. TV has bumped it into the 4 o'clock window. We'll take air at 3:30. Before we get into getting a little bit of a scouting report from the Boilermakers, who you played not that long ago. Does the game time matter to you guys? You just show up when it happens, or does it impact you guys at all from a scheduling standpoint, other than here's now when the game is?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that's early enough to really affect us. You know, sometimes you have those early games and you got to wake them up earlier. In normal non-pandemic times, you'd be like, 4 o'clock, is that going to screw up the crowd? But obviously we have no crowd. So I'm sure our guys will like it. I like it. 4 o'clock's a great time. I've always wanted like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. I was telling Coyle one day, and I think we've talked about it. We've had so many Saturday games at the barn. And we're just, you know, I always tell people we get judged, you know, we should get judged on a lot of other things we don't, which is fine. It's winning and attendance. And I think we would have had some great crowds this year, but it is what it is. But no, I don't think the 4 o'clock time will affect us much. You know, you would be, I don't know if I've told the story, but Billy Donovan used to always sit around. We'd be having staff meetings. He said, I just love to get in these guys' heads. I said, no, you don't, because you'd be disappointed. You know, they're simple thinkers. You know, as long as we get them their rest, their food, they'll be ready to go.
And then from a Purdue standpoint, let's just get a quick thought on them. You had controlled the game there a couple of weeks ago in the first half. At one point, you're up 14. I think you're up 5 at halftime. What can you take from maybe that game into this one on Thursday? And obviously, they're a big team.
Turnovers and rebounds was the reason why they pulled away. We were right there. We were playing well. We shot some bad twos at the rim, you know, missed a lot of layups where we got to kick them back out. And then we didn't hit bodies. You know, they're going to run their stuff and they're going to shoot it and they're going to treat everything like a miss. And we wore down. We said before the game, there's going to be 2 things they're going to try to do. They're going to try to bottle up Marcus and they're going to try to wear us down. And they did both. So we can't let them do both.
How do you prepare or plan for that physicality? I mean, obviously you have to go through it once. You've talked about that a couple of times on the show this year, that some people haven't been through just the ruggedness of it. Obviously with Williams there, that's a big part of it, but just getting them ready for how they're going to have to play against what Purdue wants to do.
That's where experience comes in, because now guys are going to know. We had a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, we had to beat Purdue at our place. And then we had to beat them in the conference tournament. And we lost the first one at their place, and we kind of understood because Purdue is very, very unique. We handled it so much better the second and third time. So I'm hopeful that they understand, because it is unique. We counted in January, I think they ran like 140 sets, different sets. That's not normal. You know, normally you're going to get about 8 to 10 sets in basketball. They treat it like football. They really do. I mean, they walk the ball up the court, they run their set, then they run their counter, then the counter to the counter, and it's just the way that they play. And then a shot goes up, they know who's shooting it, and then they just fly at the rim and they throw you out of the way. And if you're not physical with them, you're going to give up. I think we gave up 17 offensive rebounds. If we rebounded the game, it would have been a different story. So, you know, seeing it, that is where experience comes in. And again, like, I don't want to upset people, but like, experience, being old is different than having experience. They now have that experience versus Purdue in the way that they play. And, you know, that's very, very important, because I can't come into practice today, day after a game, and put the bubble up on the rim and start smashing into each other, because that's not smart. You know, we gotta be fresh for Thursday.
And you mentioned, so you take from that game and learn. And then I would think too, having the Rutgers game and how big they are in physical, that with those 2 games kind of back to back, now getting ready for this one, that you can probably pull from both those games in terms
for sure. Yeah, right? For sure. Yeah. I mean, and we'll be more ready for it. You know, I think they understand that if you don't hit bodies. There's rebounding and blocking out are kind of two different things. They shouldn't be, but they are. And if you don't hit bodies, like if our stat sheet isn't full of Marcus Carr 6 rebounds, Gabe Kalsher 4 rebounds, Booth Gotch 6, 7 rebounds, then that means we're not hitting bodies. You got to keep guys off the glass. They're a good team. I mean, they're a good team, and we were right there with them and let them pull away at the end. So hopefully it's fresh on our guys' minds.
Last one, Guardsy, what do you have?
Well, Williams, I mean, we talked about him, Travion. What's unique about him? What stands out about him? How do you have to go about him? Obviously, he's going to hit the glass really hard as well. He averages almost 10 boards a game. But what's unique about him? Just another good big guy in the Big Ten.
Yeah, he's got great experience. Been there a while. Knows the system inside and out. Terrific passer. I mean, just he's like Magic Johnson with some of the passes that he makes are unbelievable. They have Stefanovic back. They didn't have him in the game that we played. They're a better team when he's in the game. But Williams is a tough cover because, he's going to make you pay if you trap him. If you make a mistake, like we had one trap where we made a mistake and he dumped it over for a dunk. It was a crucial play in that game. So we've got to be connected because he's looking to find guys. And we got to do our best to go at him, see if we can get him in foul trouble.
All right, very good. One real quick last one. Any word yet on a potential makeup date for that first Nebraska game?
No.
Nothing yet.
Nothing. No, I don't know. I'm shocked that that's not been decided. I mean, I was talking to Fred before the game, and I feel for those guys. But
what a week they have.
I mean, they're going Monday, Wednesday, Friday,
and Sunday.
And they basically went Saturday, Monday,
Monday,
Friday, Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to say on that. I mean, I don't like seeing that. I don't know why. I don't know. I'm trying not to get in trouble, but why is football able to cancel games but they can't? Because they're going to be toast. Those kids are going to be toast. I mean, I'm not surprised. They played pretty well versus Michigan State. First game after a layoff, you'll be good. We talked a little bit about hey, we got to get to their legs because I think they're going to be dead. And they were a little bit. I think you'll see maybe that next one, they'll settle into this routine a little bit. But you hate to see that for those kids. But I'm sure the kids want to play and play safely as well.
All right,
but it's hard because you're judged by wins and losses. And that's not fair to those guys, what they're dealing with. But hard to rationalize with it. You just got to roll with the punches.
Yeah, their next 2.5 to 3 weeks is just going to be crazy. That's for sure. Well, very good. We will see you at 4:00 on Thursday for tip-off. Good to see you.
All right. Thank you. Can't wait.
All right. He's the head coach, Richard Pitino. JG, well, I don't know when I'll see you next, probably next week on this Zoom.
I also can't wait. We'll see you then.
All right. We'll have Gopher basketball Thursday, 3:30 the tip, 4:00 or 3:30 the pregame, 4:00 the tip. The Gophers and the Boilermakers. This has been Gopher Basketball Weekly with Richard Pitino from Learfield, IMG College.